I just want to welcome you. I'm on this call here, this recording with my friend Cross Bright. Cross, how you doing today?
Doing well, doing well. Can't complain.
Yeah, it's another Monday. It's Monday for us. I'm not sure what
Yeah.
day it is for you, but we were just talking before we jumped on this recording, just talking about the full day of meetings. So, hey, I wanted to introduce everybody to Cross, let you kind of hear his story a little bit, some of the things that he's working through, and really just kind of for him to share a little bit about his experience with really this quarterly gathering, this family gathering that we're doing in Austin here once a quarter. But before we do that, Cross, why don't you share just a little bit who you are, how you're connected, church you're part of, ministry experience, anything that you want to share with everybody here today?
Yeah. So my name is Cross Bright. I am based out of Texarkana, Texas. I'm with First Baptist Church in Texarkana. Um, and I have been at First Baptist on staff going on 5 years now. Started off in student ministry in August, or really in June and July of 2021. Had the opportunity to step into college ministry for the first time and just really felt the Lord directing me and guiding me there. Long story short, I took the opportunity, I did it, I've loved it. And now, this past July, I moved into a role to where now I'm over middle school, high school, and college.
Yeah.
So in Texarkana, we have a couple colleges. We have Texarkana College, which is a smaller community college, and then we have A&M Texarkana, which is obviously an adjacent with A&M College Station. And it's a newer campus. It's a commuter school, four-year university. So love it here. It's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah, we had a mutual friend, Brian Hughes, who was there before you. So
Mhm.
it was fun to get to connect with Cross. So here's I kind of love this story. How did we get connected? So I know we actually recorded this story when we were in Austin here last week, but I'd love to you to share just a little bit about how we got connected, kind of some of the first connections we had, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I accepted the job to do college ministry. Um, Kind of got settled in, and then all of a sudden, just randomly, everything was kind of like a blur those first couple weeks. Get a random friend request from a guy named Andy Abramson. You may have heard of him. And then a message from him a couple days later. It's like, hey man, want to hop on a Zoom? And just again, no idea in any context who he was. I was like, sure, this is kind of interesting. Thought he was some sort of like life insurance salesman or like a pyramid scheme guy, and I was like, I don't know what this is. We get on the Zoom, and he's like, yeah, tell me about yourself. I was like, this is the weirdest sales pitch I've ever heard. But no, it really was just um, he reached out to me, wanted to get to know me, saw that I was doing college ministry, and just wanted to connect. Um, and yeah, just wanted to kind of have a pulse on what we were doing, who I was, how we're doing. But it wasn't until after college metro,
Yeah.
kind of the opportunity began to come to a head, and you really presented the opportunity to work with Elementum and work with you and some other guys, just about like, hey, how can we like evaluate college ministry? How can we best do this for the context that I'm in? And that's something that's always just been interesting to me and has always intrigued me. And I'm not naive enough to think that I have everything figured out. And so just prayed through it, talked with some people at my like on staff with me, um, and we went ahead and did it. And I've been working with Andy and Elementum since I think we officially started in May after
May, yeah.
school finished. Yeah.
April or May, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So I'm curious. So I still remember one of the responses that you had because we had put out that spring about, hey, we're thinking about this new thing, right? So we're thinking about not only like the coaching side of what we're doing, but we're thinking about this kind of this trying beta testing this idea of gathering together once a quarter in Austin in community, working on ministry together, getting to know one another, praying for one another. So I'm curious, like what about that specifically kind of piqued your interest and kind of was the thought of like, man, I think that would maybe be a good environment for me.
Yeah. So in my ministry experience, and I've grown up in church. Mom grew up doing ministry, so I've seen a lot of ministry in my life. Um, but one of the biggest things I've seen is it's really easy to get siloed and just kind of be off on your own little island. And that's something that I've always sought to get away from. And
Mm,
finding a community, finding just a group of people that, especially ones that aren't necessarily in your context in your town, that can either pray for you and encourage you, or can also just give you real tangible advice from an outsider's perspective. Um, and I thought that Elementum and these quarterly gatherings would achieve that. And I mean, so far, I would say that it's done everything and more. Just as far as, hey, there's a group of people that really do care for you, even though that you may have only had a couple of conversations with them so far. But there's also a lot of wisdom and a lot of truth and direction to glean from it.
That's good. That's good. So I'm curious, like, so it was interesting because you were slated to come in the June quarterly gathering, but then had to pull out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, right. So really your first one was last week with us. I'm curious
Right.
about like, what were your thoughts like kind of going into it? And then what was the experience like of being in that room, being around those leaders? Just kind of give maybe some snapshots of our couple days together.
So obviously, was really excited. Was super bummed I didn't get to make it to the one in June. Um, but coming into it, really just wrestling with a couple things. The first thing is, it's not always easy to humble yourself and easy to like be vulnerable, and especially for me, it's something just allowing people like really inside to like the inner workings of like what's going on in my heart and things like that, as far as just like, hey, like where are we at? And so coming into it, you could kind of have one of two responses. You could either try and puff up your ministry and make it this big smoke and mirrors thing, or you could be real and allow some people
Mm,
to really give some good advice and some good just direction. Um, and so there was obviously there's that tug right there. And so thankfully, just praying through it, and the Lord was very gracious to me and allowed me to be vulnerable and open up, and got some just really good insight from that. But also just really excited to finally just meet these people that I've been connecting with for the past couple of months, and I've seen in Slack or I've seen on Facebook or seen in passing just at these conferences. Um, and to just build a relationship and establish that with them is something I was really looking forward to.
yeah. I like your say your math analogy.
Oh
I get a
yeah.
chuckle.
So So, admittedly, so I did the math, and I was so in our specific gathering, I was the youngest one in there by probably almost a decade. Like I think there may have been one person that wasn't too far ahead of me, but people that have been doing college ministry a really really long time, much longer than I've been, and so I feel like that those 2 days it really is like a day and a half of information and talking, but in those 2 days, it was like I was receiving calculus 3 information at an algebra 1 level. So it was just a ton of information that's kind of overwhelming at first, but as you continue to just kind of chew through and pray over it and think through it, makes a lot of sense. And for me specifically, I can't speak for everyone, but it was just really cool to see how it's kind of plugged in, and specifically for our context, how we can fit some things in, how can we tweak some things to work for us.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to jump into that because that's, one of the, we jumped on a call, what, like 2 days after you got back and you're like,
Hmm.
hey, I'm wrestling through some stuff, some key takeaways. I would love to hear like what were maybe some of the major kind of milestones, takeaways, kind of aha moments for your couple days in Austin here last week.
So one of the things that one of the leaders said was, at the end of the day, you have buckets that you're filling in ministry. And so for us, something like the three main buckets that we need to be filling are our worship bucket. So how are we worshiping as a college ministry? Our service bucket. How are we serving each other or other areas in the community, other ministries as a college ministry? And discipleship. How are we going through discipleship as a college ministry? Um, and whenever you look at that and you begin to boil down everything you do, whether it's a weekly event, so we have a weekly midweek service, as well as our Sunday morning gatherings as a church, and then we have a Sunday evening gathering that's kind of like our traditional Sunday school method. Um, but essentially, they all met the same function. They all met the same bucket and were being filled in the same area. And so then the question had to be asked: are all of these things necessary?
Mm,
And if they're not, what can we remove or what can we tweak to where they begin filling in other buckets?
yeah.
And so that was just the biggest thing. And now, kind of just even as we go forward, thinking, okay, well, what bucket is this filling? Is this a bucket that needs to be filled, or is this just something that may be a little more comfortable that we're lying into? So that was one of the biggest takeaways. I mean, there's a lot of just like little one-liners that I could also just throw out there that are just like, oh man, why haven't I thought of that? that were really good as well.
Yeah. And we talked about that a couple days afterwards. It wasn't, sometimes it's not things that are like huge aha revelation type moments, but we get so like consumed and our head down in the ministry that sometimes it takes somebody else who'll just say, well, have you thought about this or have you thought about that? And you're kind of like, oh yeah, yeah, that would be, like that's a great idea. I wish I would have thought, I wish I would have thought about that or whatever.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so last question here for you is, so let's say somebody is like intrigued, right? They're like, man, maybe this is a great space for me. Would this be something that would be valuable for me as a college or young adult ministry leader? What I'd love to just kind of talk to them a little bit about the possibility, or maybe encourage them about what they would receive in this environment.
Well, first off, I mean, if you're in this boat, if you're questioning whether or not this is something that you would want to be a part of or you would be interested in looking more into, I would 100% um, be involved, or I would 100% take the next step in getting involved. Just first and foremost, the community that you get of people that are walking through the same ministry as you. I think you even talked about in our gathering the example of Nehemiah and how the builders are all building together, like we're all building the same wall. We're just at different segments of the wall. And so just having that affirmation and knowing that, hey, I have a group of people I can reach out to, like, hey guys, like I would love some prayer for this, or I would love to hop on a Zoom call and just catch up and see how things are going. That's really unmatched in a lot of different ways. But also, I mean, just the wisdom and the guidance that you would get from other people in different areas. So I was at our meeting, I was the only person from Northeast Texas. And believe it or not, Northeast Texas versus Southeast Texas is wildly different in a lot of different ways. And so hearing different perspectives on things is really, really good. It saves you the hassle of having to come up with something fresh all the time and feeling like you always have to have something new. Because sometimes it's just a matter of a different perspective or a different viewpoint. So if that is something that you're looking into, I would 100% encourage you to jump in and go for it. And whether you're newer to college ministry like I am, or you've been doing college ministry a long time, there's a lot of benefits in both instances. Um, so yeah,
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Cross, it's been fun getting to know you over these last several months, starting from last spring, and just look forward to one, how God continues use our team, but also the community around you. And I think that that's going to be it's going to be fun to watch you continue to grow and progress in your ministry and impact as well. So it's been really great getting to know you. Thanks for taking time
of
doing this
course.
interview today. And
Yeah.
okay, sounds good, everybody. We will talk to you later. Okay,
See
see you.
y'all.